Okay, so what's today? Today is March 23rd, 2022. Welcome everybody. How you doing? It's your boy Coach Vic, certified land investor. Got my sweater back on. Didn't want to do the suit today because honestly, I got lazy. It's funny when you actually get up early and you work out and you do all the things that make you feel good, you get more energy. Well, last night I had a late basketball game, ended up hurting my ankle somehow. I didn't really feel it till I got home. I guess that's the blessings of old age. and I was going to get up early to play hoop to this morning with the old guys at the YMCA. And when I didn't because I was hurt, I slept into about 6:30, 7-ish. And then because I was hurt, I didn't do my regular like weight training. And so I've just been doing, work around here, trying to get organized, things like that. And now I feel exhausted. I don't know. I feel exhausted. But anyways, if you can hear me okay, you can see me okay, let me know, because today we are going to talk about my best tips for squeezing land investing into a busy schedule. Now, this is a secret, so don't tell nobody. RIP Johnny Witherspoon, Pops. Oh, we miss you down here. Without further ado, let me ask you this. So are you in a position right now where you want to get into land investing, or you are in land investing, but you want to make it less of a side hustle and more of a full-time thing, but you don't have the time, or you feel you don't have the time to dedicate to it so you can actually make that transition? Or maybe you like the idea of buying land for pennies on the dollar, and everything seems great, but you just aren't sure if you have the time to really learn the skills, learn the craft, and make it a thing. If that's you, raise your hand right now. I mean, it's a lot of us. We all have this, this misconception of how much time it takes. But early on, I won't lie to you. It will take some time to learn skills. Like for me, I'll work about 5 hours a week, maybe 10, depending on how much I have to drive to do things. But in general, I don't work that long land investing. I do a lot more work trying to teach you guys the game than I do myself, not because I'm not doing it. I got 4 deals pending right now. But the actual work, once you set up systems and you start to rely on systems and not your own willpower, things get easier. Not to mention, it's easier when you don't have to worry about remembering all the little details about every little deal, because you have a system that kind of takes care of those details. That's how I can work so few hours and still get a lot done. Not because I'm cheating it or whatever. It's because I'm becoming more and more efficient. And no, I don't use virtual assistants. Now, at some point, maybe I will, but right now I don't. Now, here's the thing. When I first got started land investing, I did have a full-time job. I did have to try to squeeze things in when I was actually, trying to work. And it sucked. Like when you're trying to work, but then somebody calls you to like, hey, I want to buy your property. Or you're working and someone calls you like, hey, I want to sell the property. Or you're like, damn, I got to go to the bank for this, or I got to go to the post office for that, or whatever it is. And you're kind of trapped and you're limited to when and how you can handle those things. Yes, it's great when you can do it on your own, as in anytime you feel like it, or anytime the call comes in, or anytime you feel like returning a call. But when you're working, that's not always the case. You may only have your lunch break. You may only have pre-working hours or post-working hours, or, who knows? And maybe those hours aren't when people are normally wanting to talk. So like if you work late, you're not going to get off work at like 8 p.m. and call up a prospect, say, I want to sell or buy my property, because people don't really want to talk that late. Now, sometimes they do. If they text you at that time, then absolutely. Text or call you at that time, yes, then great. But in general, if they call you or text you early in the day, people probably don't want to be bothered late at night. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? All right, well, I'm going to share some things that I did because I hated having that feeling of lack of control. I hated I feel like I left money on the table because I couldn't get back to a prospect in time. Or what was worse, when you don't get back to a prospect and then you forget about it. That's the worst, because then you think about it later, you're like, oh, goddamn, that's another wasted opportunity. All right, so the first thing is first, write this down. Look at all the land investing tasks that you have in whatever current system that you're using right now. See what's the most time consuming. Now, for you, it could be as simple as the property research. That could be very time consuming. Or I don't know. For me, it was actually driving or going to like places like the bank or the post office. That was for me. The other stuff wasn't that time consuming. It obviously it took time, but I could do a lot of that, in my own time. So when you figure that out, you'll understand where you can be more efficient. So think about this. Do you spend a lot of time answering phone calls? Do you spend a lot of time going to the post office like I have to do? Or yeah, actually, I don't have to do it as much anymore because I use the internet, but still. Do you go spend a lot of time going to the bank for cashier's checks or anything like that? What about getting deeds notarized, going to the bank for getting notarization or to UPS or whatever? Whatever it is, figure out what you're spending the most time on. Once you see what's most time consuming, now you have two options. All right. So first, you can hire someone to do the sales and acquisitions, all that, but I don't necessarily recommend that right away. Now, obviously, it's good for scaling once you have something up and going, but in general, I don't recommend that if you're just getting started. That's like a waste of money. You don't have enough volume for that person to have something to do. You'll be paying them to sit around doing nothing. And then if you're not good at those things, how do you know you're hiring someone that's good at it? Sure, they can tell you that they're good at these things. Doesn't mean that they are. And, even if they're not lying, they really feel they're really good at what they do. Once you get good at it, you can actually vet and see what they feel is good versus what you feel is good, what you feel is a mastery versus what they feel is mastery. See if it links up. All right. But obviously these things cost money, they cost time. And then people who are working for you, if they decide to quit, they decide to slack off, they decide these things, it doesn't really affect them the way it affects you. It's your business, not theirs. All right. So the second option besides hiring someone is become more efficient, like I've kind of been alluding to the whole time. So when you're more efficient with your time, it helps you scale a little bit, but not as much as if you outsource it or let another person or machine do the task. Obviously, it's more work because you're still doing it. You can just do more of it in less time. And then if you're only getting a small amount of calls or you're getting a small amount of like interest, it probably works out pretty well. All right. So again, the two options, after you figure out what's the most time consuming, you can hire someone out, which I don't recommend right away. Learn the business, learn the skills first. Or you can start to just be more efficient with your time. And even though you're doing more in less time, you're still doing it. So there's a trade-off there. All right. Now, so this is what I did when I had to worry about those calls. So instead of hiring somebody, I first funneled all the calls into my voicemail. So when I was still working a 9-to-5 job, I never picked up the phone. Every time someone called me, whether they're buying or selling, I didn't pick it up. I let it go to voicemail. Now, with my acquisition line, because I have two different phone lines, I had a very clear voicemail message that says, hey, thanks for calling, blah, blah, blah. Give me your reference number. I will call you back soon. And the reference number was just a way for me to quickly look up their information so I can find, okay, this is John Smith. This is their property. This is what it looks like, et cetera, et cetera. And doing that meant that I can get all the calls throughout the day, just collect them, and then attack them one by one when I had time. And I'll block out a space of time, like when I had a break at work or something, or I just didn't have any meetings. And then I can able to just knock them out one by one. And then that worked pretty well for me. And not everybody who called me was actually going to sell. And I can hear that from their message. Sometimes they're very clear, like, yeah, I don't want to sell. Why you send me this postcard? Other times they're kind of hemming and hawing, like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what you got to say. Yeah, I would eventually call those people back, but those people get called back at the very end because I'm like, yeah, I can tell you're not about that life. So far, is this making sense? Making sense. You guys getting this? All right. Because again, the goal is to be able to do this part-time at first so you can actually do this full-time if you choose to. Cool. All right. So next. When I was selling, I want to also kind of weed people out. Now, I didn't want to weed people out because when people actually call you, they're a lot more serious than those who are just kind of saying on Facebook Marketplace and, oh, I'm interested, and they don't reply back after you say it's available. All right, so those who are calling you, I want all of those messages in. Why do I want those? For two main reasons. One, as I said, they're more serious. But the second reason, they're also people who are going to be on my, I guess, buyers list, even though they haven't bought yet. So when I have more things going on, I can let them know, like, hey, I got another property. I know you may not have bought the first one, or you did buy the first one, whatever it is. Maybe you can actually use this one too. And then now I can, instead of trying to go to cold audience, I can use a warmer audience. All right. So that's one thing. So I want that, but I have to make sure my message was very clear and specific. Right. So in my ads, I made sure that I say things that get rid of tire kickers. And what do I do? What do I mean by that? People who aren't really that serious, but are kind of curious. So I answer the basic questions. And these are the questions that most people want to know. And you guys heard me say this before. Where is it? How much? What can I do with this? Is this a good deal? I answer that right off the top. I also know that certain people want to know a certain thing about the property, as in, can I put an RV on it? Can I put a mobile home on it? Stuff like that. I make sure I answer that up front. Is there an HOA? If so, what price is it? Do I do owner financing? And if so, what are the terms? So I put that all up front, because the people who are just kind of curious, they'll see that and then they'll actually decide like, hey, do I really want to pursue this further? Or, not really that interested, right? When you give everybody what they want up front, and then you give them a link to actually see more with like a website with more detailed information, it does help to cut down a lot of the crap. And when you cut down the crap, you get a lot less phone calls, but the ones you get are going to be a lot more valuable. Does that make sense? Because I want to make sure you guys understand that. When I get less phone calls, I get more valuable phone calls, but again, it's more manageable for a solopreneur to do their thing. Okay, cool. Now, when I am talking to somebody or we're communicating via text messaging, Facebook Messenger, or phone call, and I can tell they're not ready, or they just say they're not ready to really do anything, like to go check it out or whatever it is, I try to keep them warm by sending them information. And I want to do that in a more automated fashion. So you can do that with the email autoresponder. You can probably do that with the text autoresponder, or just have a pre-written, canned response where you can just insert whatever link of interest in there, just a copy and paste job, and just do that for the people that you can tell are at a low level when it comes to ready to buy. When you do that, again, you're being a lot more efficient with your time. You can do that anytime, especially when it's text or email. Email can be done automatically from your autoresponder. If you don't have a text autoresponder, you can just do it whenever you want, because guess what? It's text. It's not that urgency of a phone call where people feel they need to answer it right away. So another way to be a little bit more efficient with your time. Now, I hurt my ankle. Later, people who are, I guess, not that close to buying, I do not want to be on the phone with them. Saves my time. I can be more efficient. Those who say, hey, I've actually seen the property, or I'm going to look at it like today, I don't mind talking to them because they're more serious. They may not buy, but they at least have the real intent to buy if they saw or they liked what they saw. So my job to stay efficient is to not talk to people who aren't ready to look at the property or who aren't ready to buy. Again, that limits the amount of phone calls I get, but the phone calls I do get, highly impactful. You see the trend here, right? I'm only focusing my time on sales or on acquisition on people who are serious, who want to do the things I need them to do. Either they're ready to sell to me at the price I want, or they're ready to buy at the price I have it listed or around that price. So far, is this making sense? Trying to make sure you guys are understanding what I'm doing, because I don't want you guys to kind of let this go over your heads. Cool. Okay. All right. Let's keep moving on. Now, what do you do after you're doing all that? What do you do to kind of stay on top of your goals, right? So you're only talking to people who are serious, whether you're buying or selling. You're being efficient with your time. You're relying on certain tools and automation. Like, for example, if you want to be more efficient with your time, texting is not that efficient. It could be good, and hell, it may even be illegal in certain places now. And I'll dig more into that in the future talk. But you want to be efficient. Mailers are very highly efficient. Whether your list is one person on the list or a million people on the list, it's one thing for you to do. Upload the list, push the button, let it get sent. Only talking to people who are serious. Obviously, the messaging you put in your postcards to say, hey, I want to buy your property, call me. And the messaging you put in your ads, like, hey, I want to sell this property. Here's what I got to be efficient. You're talking to certain people. You want to ignore or exclude anybody else. But after you're doing that, you're making some deals, things are working out. You still got your 9 to 5. How do you stay on track? because it's just still, even though you're being more efficient, this still can be a lot, right? Well, how do you stay on track for your revenue and profit goals? Well, first off, what do I mean by staying on track? It's like staying focused on those goals. Making the land business more about making sales and like randomly about getting sales. That makes sense. So like having more of a plan so things come a little bit more predictably than just randomly just things happen. All right. So this is what I'm talking about here. First, I got to admit, staying on track can be tough. We all got to go through life. We all got families. We got friends. We got hobbies. We got interests. We got fears. We got desires. We got all these things. We got jobs. Again, this is why we're having this conversation. So we got to make sure to stay on track. The best way I like to do it personally is I have a to-do list and a time block my day. Early in the day, I get up and I figure out what's the most important time. I don't know how to say it, money-making activities. Now, I may have 50 things on my to-do list, but I may realize only 2 of those things truly matter today. 2 of those things truly matter because they're actually going to get me money in my pocket or set me up to get money in my pocket. And the other things are just like nice to haves. So the first thing you got to do to stay on track is just make sure that everything you do every day and the first thing that you do is based on something that's going to put money in your pocket. First thing. If you're worried about other superficial things and you're like easily distracted and you're like, oh man, I know I should be doing something, but those dirty dishes are calling my name. You're never going to stay consistent with your revenue and profit goals. So that's the first thing. All right. Now, when you don't do this, you know what happened? You get those feast or famine months, meaning when you don't prioritize those money-making activities, and I'm going to let you know what they are right now. Getting offers out, marketing the land that you have. That is it. Everything else that you have, they're secondary. They may be important or they may be urgent, but they're not as urgent as getting offers out there, marketing the property that you do have. That's the only thing that you should be focusing on. And how you do that depends on you and your business, but those are the 2 things. But if you do not stay consistent with those 2 things, this is what leads to the feast or famine months. What I mean by that is 1 month, things are going great. You're making a bunch of sales. You may even run out of inventory. You have nothing else to sell. Everything is wonderful. Then the next month, because you have to try to pick up the slack because you already sold everything out, you got no sales. No sales mean no money coming in. That makes things tough. That makes it where you're like, oh, damn, well, I did have a lot of money to invest in more property, but now I got to pay bills. Now I got to pay this. I got to pay that. And you kind of stop your momentum. So now you're in a famine month and you got to build that back up. All right, let me get up some more offers out there. Let me see who wants to do a deal. And everybody who wants to do a deal, they're not going to move fast. Some people move extremely slow. For example, there's a property I've been waiting for because I went to title company like an idiot. I've been waiting for this lady to do something, or this title company and this lady combo to do something since December. Still waiting. Now, in the past, I was just like, oh, well, this is going to be a nice deal. I'm going to get a nice paycheck from it. And I would have just waited. Like, I don't know if I can afford anything else because I got to have that money earmarked for them. And I keep waiting. And now that's 2 or 3 months with no money coming in because I'm waiting for some slow ass old people. Can't do it. This is why you got to make sure you stay consistent. When you do that, your sales are always going to be there. Your acquisition is always going to be there. And you're going to make sure you keep moving. You keep that momentum because without it, you can't stay on track. Anyways. Now, when I use my time wisely, I focus on the main things that make me money, marketing and acquisition or getting offers out there. Things are going well. Now, after you get that, or at least I guess as part of the marketing, one way to really utilize your time, and I kind of spoke about this before, is proper follow-up, both with people you're trying to acquire property from and people you're selling to. But you want to be efficient. This is where you can leverage CRMs, that's customer relationship managers. This is when you want to leverage certain texting, blast texting. You got to be careful with it. But the point is, you just got to make sure you keep track of that and you do it in a way that's time efficient. Now, I can't give more information on that because we all work differently. We all have different systems. But the more we can incorporate the offers out there and following up with those people who actually express some type of interest in selling and selling, or excuse me, when you're marketing and people who are like, hey, I'm looking to buy, and you can keep that track, everything's going to take care of itself. Those are the things that you really need to focus on. That's what you really need to focus on. All right. So let me recap. When you are busy, the main thing is to lean on a system, not your willpower and not your like discipline, because those things are fleeting. They only last for so long. When you lean on a system, you can actually be more efficient with your time. You can do more with less time. You can hire someone later, but right now it's about being efficient, being really good at what you do, and then start the time block so you can actually have everything happen throughout the day. You collect everything, but then you can actually talk to people or whatever you need to do during the time blocks that you kind of carved out of your schedule, or after your workday or before your workday. When you do that, you're ahead of the game, because most people don't do this, and they're wondering why they're not getting sales, because they'll do it for one day, maybe 2 days, but then out of the week, they're not doing anything else. So if you time block properly and you keep the main thing, you're going to do well. And then once you're there and you have things growing, you stay consistent with your mailing and marketing. Make sure that you're actually, what's the word I'm thinking about? Oh yeah. Make sure you're actually keeping your revenue goals in mind, doing the right thing, and then following up with people on a regular schedule. It all comes together. All right. I think that's it, because I have more in my notes I want to talk about, but then these are kind of going off the track here. And then I don't want to confuse you guys. Yeah, we'll end it there. All right, guys. Hopefully things are going to be good for you guys. Again, you do have the time. You just don't realize it. You just got to be more efficient with the time that you have, and you got to be more intentional about this stuff. You can't just go around wandering and just randomly doing stuff and then kind of just haphazardly doing a little task here, a task there. No, it's got to be intentional. You got a time block. You got to keep the main thing. All right, keep it short, keep it sweet. Glad to see you guys, and I will talk to you guys next week. Peace out.